this, right? So if we're doing a second MCP, if I was doing, I just straighten out. So I look, she's got some extension. So if I wanted to measure her extension, I'd use this, right? And then I'd be over the midline of the second metacarpal dorsally, and then over that joint, and then I'd be over her proximal phalanx. Okay, and I'd measure that, and I'd see that she has 25 degrees. All right, so she's got quite a bit of extension, 0 to 25 degrees. And then when I measure her flexion, right, I'd have her flex as far as she could go. So I'd line up over the joint, all right, and then over the midline dorsal metacarpal, second metacarpal, and then over the midline of the proximal phalanx. All right, and I'd look and I'd say that looks like a little more than 90 degrees. And then I'd look at my measurement and I'd say she's got, and it says she has 100. All right, so that makes sense. So 100 degrees of flexion. You can use this one and do the same thing. All right. So I just lay it right over, okay, and then I go like that, okay, and it sticks, which is nice. And this one says 95, 100. This one says 105, all right? So maybe I have to do a reliability study on this versus this, right? Maybe this one does. Or maybe she warmed up a little bit. So the same thing with the IP. So with the IP, so I can have her flex, all right? And I can either measure this way, over. Sometimes when you work with a lot of hands, what people will do is they'll cut these off. They'll make these shorter too, okay? So when you're in here, it will be a little bit shorter and you won't have as much on there. Or if you're lucky to have one of these, okay, again, we can just measure like that. That looks like it's way over 90 degrees, and when I look at it, it's 95, 100, 105, 110, 115. All right, extension. So when I look at extension, she's got 0 at her PIP, so I don't have to measure that. All right. If I was measuring her DIP, she's got a little bit of hyperextension there. So again, I could measure, you know, I could go in here with this big old thing and measure that little bit of hyperextension. And then I can have her flex. Go ahead, flex the whole thing. Good. See, I just have her flex that whole thing. And I can either measure this way, but this is a little big here, so this is much nicer. And I can measure, looks like she's got about 90, maybe a little short. Yep, 85 degrees.